Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to The Real ZB. I am Zinhle, a chartered accountant, CASA, as well as a commercial banker. And this month, I'm giving you some tips on how you can get that JAB job. And today's topic is a crucial part of the recruitment process, and it's one that a lot of you struggle with. My interview success rate is 100%. So I thought, let me share with you some of my interview tips to help you get that bag, honey. As you can see, today we are switching things up. We are outside because it's a lovely day in the bay, honey. Since you clicked on this video, I am going to assume that you are struggling to get through your interviews. So let me not waste any more of your time and let's get into these interviews. So my first tip for you is to be early, okay? Punctuality is one of the most important things that recruiters are going to look, because it says a lot about you, okay? Without you having to say anything, it tells you that you are organized, it tells that you are prepared, it tells that you are reliable because you showed up and you showed up early. So make that good impression by just waking up a little bit early, okay? If you have a morning interview, or just getting there a little bit early if it's in the afternoon. I personally like to overestimate rather than underestimate my time when it comes to arriving early for an interview. I always give myself sort of an hour's grace. I know you might think it's, an over exaggeration or it's too much, but literally you never know what is going to go wrong on the day of your interview. You never know if all of a sudden on that day the route going to the interview is going to have an accident and you need to stay there for 30 minutes waiting for it to be cleared out. You don't know if there's a parking situation at the workplace that you're going to interview for. You don't know if you have to drive around the block 4 times before you find a parking space. So make sure that you are extremely early for your interview. Rather overestimate than underestimate. It just shows that you care. And guys, one thing that people won't tell you is that arriving directly on time is not that impressive, because on time is late. I love to say that to myself, like, on time is late. Always give yourself some grace, some margin of error in case something goes wrong. At least if everything goes your way on that morning or on that day and there's no traffic and there's no distractions, at least you've got some time to just sit and collect yourself, meditate if you need to, read a book if you need to. But the worst thing that you can do for yourself is to put yourself under more pressure by being late and also rushing, because rushing already just puts you on edge, and then you're unable to present that calm and cool and collected and confident being that I know that you are. So please arrive early for your interviews. Give yourself some time to woo-sa, collect yourself, especially if this is the first time you're going to be going to the premises, because sometimes the GPS tends to lasha you completely. So you also need to just factor that in, that the GPS might not be on your side on that day. So just give yourself margin for error. The worst that can happen is that you get there an hour earlier, which it's not a bad thing, because you'll still make the impression that you care, you're prepared, and you're organized. My second tip is that when they offer you tea or coffee or a hot beverage, just say, "No, thank you. I had some on the way." This shows that, listen, uvukile. First of all, uvuke early. You had a hot beverage, which means that you had time, okay? You were intentional about your day. It tells the recruiter that you are someone who plans ahead. You understand? You knew you had a 9 a.m. interview, but you still had time to sneak in a hot beverage there. And the thing about a hot beverage is that it's not something that you can just gulp down and rush out the door. A hot beverage, you need to first boil, you need to pour in, and then you need to let it sit. until it's like a good temperature for you to start sipping, and you sip it, you don't gulp it down because ishu. So it already tells interviewer that, listen, this person does not play, this person came here prepared. Okay. And if you are someone who's like a people pleaser and you really don't want to be like rude and turn down a hot beverage when they've asked you, rather than say, no thank you, I had some coffee or tea on the way, but I'd really appreciate some water. So in that way, you're still showing the recruiter that, listen, I'm prepared. Okay, I had a coffee on my way here, I had a green tea on my way here, I had a matcha latte on my way here, but I'm polite and I'm going to accept your offering. You understand? So it just gives the recruiter that thing about, okay, this one, she is polite. This one's polite, but she's also prepared. You understand? So that's just something that I like to do. When I'm offered like tea and coffee, I don't even bring up the fact that I don't actually drink coffee, because they don't need to know that at that stage. I just say, no thank you, I had some on the way, and leave it at that. I don't have to have this thick conversation on how I don't drink coffee and I'm obeying the word of wisdom and all of that stuff. They can find that about me at a later stage. But right now, I'm just trying to show them that I am prepared and I was intentional about being here today. Oh, the thing about being out in the sun is that you're going to sweat. I don't think I thought this through. But it's okay. Right. The third tip I have for you is something that you might hear a lot, but it's super important, and that is to dress professionally and conservatively or modestly. Because you know what? You don't know the kind of environment that you're walking into. You don't know if you're walking into a super corporate business or a chill, casual vibe. So just make sure that you look professional and you look presentable on the day. And the thing about dressing modestly or dressing conservatively is that you're going to avoid any wardrobe malfunctions. You understand? Because also that's another thing that might put some of the panel of interviewers or the recruiters off, is if you have, and then you become that girl that had, you understand? Or you become that guy that had you understand? I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. But make sure that you are dressed in clothes that are comfortable and that fit you kakuhle, not too tight. Because I know I've seen some guys when they go to interviews with the tightest shirts and the tightest blazer and the tightest, pants, that they can't even move. When they sit down, you have to say a little bit of a prayer, because anything could happen at that point in time. And when they sit down successfully, you think, okay, thank goodness we didn't see some amazing graces today. Just make sure you are comfortable. You get dressed in something that you'll be confident in, you're relaxed in. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit loose, doesn't matter if it's not figure hugging, doesn't matter if we don't see the girls. Just be professional and clean. And another thing is to smell nice, smell good, but don't overdo it on the perfume and the cologne. Okay, smell good enough, because I find that perfume and smelling nice is a good entryway into a deeper conversation, where the recruiter will be like, oh, you smell nice, and I'll be like, thank you, honey, it's Gucci or something. And then you start talking about how this is the scent that you're wearing and all of that stuff, and now you are already a likable person because you're having a casual conversation with a recruiter. It's a conversation starter. So if you can see where I'm going with this, it's all about engaging all 5 senses into the experience of you. When you walked in there, you were presentable, so you fed the eyes. When you smell good, you're feeding the smell. And when it comes to your turn to speak in the actual interview, speak slowly, speak confidently, so you're engaging the ears. Make sure that they can hear you, okay? Don't speak all the way down here that they can't hear what you're saying. Speak boldly, speak from the diaphragm, so that even though your voice will quiver because, let's face it, you're probably nervous, it won't show because you're speaking from your stomach instead of from up here. So you've engaged 3 senses. Touch, your handshake, have a nice firm handshake that sort of tells the interviewer that you're confident. So already you've shown or you've engaged 4 senses. The only sense that you're not going to going to engage during your interview process is probably the sense of taste. But 4 out of 5 is a good number. So if you want to be successful in any interview, then you are going to listen carefully to the next tip. My next tip is that you must have a pocket full of at least 4 or 5 generic interview questions, right? So you know that it's highly probable that you're going to be asked, who are you? Tell us about yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? So tell me why. Why is it that when people are asked what are your weaknesses, they start to scratch their head and they say, my weakness my weakness is that I care too much. No, you need to make sure that you know exactly what you're gonna say when you're asked those questions. Okay, one thing that I like to do is I like to watch YouTube videos on like answers for these things, because they tell me exactly what the question is trying to achieve and what the recruiter is trying to see by asking me that specific question. And then I think about what I would say in that situation, and then I write it down so that I know more or less what I'm going to say if I'm ever asked that question. Now, this also gives you a confidence boost even before you step into that interview, that you are prepared, because preparation is as much for you as it is for the recruiters or the interview panel. You know, if you go in there knowing that, okay, at least I'll be able to answer some of these questions, it gives you sort of like a comfort to answer any questions that they throw at you. And that's another thing about those generic questions, is that you are going to be able to turn any question that they ask you, to turn and understand any question that they ask you to be suitable to your skills, your qualifications, and your strengths. So make sure that you prepare an answer for all of those questions that you don't like answering, and for all of those questions that are bound to come up at some stage of the recruitment process. Research the company. For my sake, please do your research. Tell me why there's people who go to interviews without having researched what the company is, what the role is, what it's all about, and all of those important things. But a step further from that, you should also research the company's strategy so that you know where the company is going in the future. This is so that you can know how to bring out the values that you have yourself to show that you will contribute to the future that they're trying to work towards. Also research the value system of the company so that you can show in your soft skills answers that your values and the company's values are aligned. Okay, so if you don't know what the values are, then you have no idea how to answer those soft skills kind of questions. But if you do, then it means that you will immediately recognize that in a certain question they're trying to test a certain value, and you can pull from your own past experience to show that you've either gone through something similar and you're able to handle that situation, and that is how you're going to bring value to the position. Also, research the past of the company, because How are you going to contribute to the present and the future when you have no idea what happened in the past? You have no idea what they did well. You have no idea what they're doing well. You have no idea what accolades they have. You don't know what awards they're winning and how you can contribute to them either keeping those awards or getting even greater awards. So just make sure that you do a little bit of research on the company. You don't need to spend a lot of time on this research. Literally, just go on their website, read their about section, and that should be, sufficient. And then when they ask you, do you have any questions? Of course you have questions. Of course you have questions. You have to have at least 2 or 3 questions that you have written down in your pretty little book that you're just going to whip out to show that you were actually prepared for this interview, and also you are serious about this position. You have thought about it, you're engaged in it, and you are ready to start. Okay, and the questions are not just to show the recruiter that you're impressive and that you prepared and all of that stuff. It's also for you, because as much as an interview is to see if you're suitable for the role, it's also for you to see if the role and the company is suitable for you. So you need to also, as you are interviewing for this position, you also need to interview them. You need to write down the things that are important to you and ask them as questions. If climbing the corporate ladder or progressing in your career is important to you, then one question that you might have for the interviewer is, so what are the next steps up from this position? Or how can you progress in this position? What is the progression like in this position or in this company? What is the next step? What is the next position? Who is my supervisor? Stuff like that also give you an indication, Bana, you won't be at this desk for 10 years without having progression in your career, because it's important to progress as a person. It's important to be in a role that's going to fulfill you for a long time, but it's also important to see your progress within a company that you have committed to. So ask those questions. Ask questions that are important to you so that you can also decide whether this position looked grand on paper, but in reality, I don't actually want it. So make sure, please have questions. No matter if you don't have anything important to yourself, just have questions. Just have 2 or 3 questions to ask the interviewers for my sake. Lastly, like I shared in my previous video, always have a pen and paper so that you can write down the question to allow you some time to think. Read back that question to the interviewer to allow you even more time to compose yourself and think. So check out this video right here to find out how I was able to land my dream job in just 15 days. And I'll see you next week for another one. Thank you so much for watching, guys.